am so grateful to Zach, to Peter, to Meredith, and for everyone at St. Bart's for this warm invitation to come and be part of this service, and also together with Lucy and Mariama, members of the clergy team from St. James's Piccadilly, to spend time, to just spend time in your presence, to spend time in New York. And I've been here before. Some of you may remember me from my visit in January 2024, and at that time, I remember that Imagine Worship was very much a thing, and that it was a kind of what is this thing? Kind of a growing thing, a liquid thing. And so I stepped back into the flow of this growing liquid thing. And I am so glad to be part of the radiance of blessings that are present here at St. Bart's and here with all of you. I bring, of course, prayers and love from the congregation at St. James's Piccadilly. Some of you have been before, some of you might watch what we're up to online sometimes, and all of you, whether in person or London or through your screens or in any other method that you choose, all of you are always welcome and you are always in our hearts. Part of the reason why we are here at St. James's is because of something called the Wren Project, where we're working to transform our buildings, our communities, and that means that tonight, Peter is charged with a very challenging task. I think he may have even disappeared. Well, wow. Where's he gone? He's back there. And the task is to take me away from this place to a reception that has to do with this Wren Project really fast after the service. And I am a chatty Cathy, and I want to meet all of you, and I know that the food's going to be great. So I apologize that I'm not able to stay around this evening. And I also extend to you a warm invitation that if you have any questions for me, or if there's anything you might want to share or reflect on, Zach, Peter, Meredith, y'all know where I am. And I also have an unusual name, and St. James's has a very good website. So if you want to find me, you can find me very, very easily. Today we have this double feast of Philip and James. St. James's Piccadilly is named for St. James, sometimes the Great, though we tend not to think about it that way. This is the other one. And it's also brilliant that, so welcome to the feast of St. James, the other one. It was still good buddies with Jesus, it was all fine. And what I love about this gospel is that it reminds us of Thomas as well. And this past Sunday, we had Doubting Thomas front and center, as he's sometimes called. I never think that's fair, but at the same time, I also think that doubt is so beautiful. So actually, it's apt. It's a good thing. And so here, we have Jesus speaking to Thomas saying, I am the way and the truth and the life. You know God. You know me. You know this stuff. But it's not the kind of knowledge that we might think about in terms of mind knowledge. It's heart knowledge. It's faith knowledge. It's knowledge in the marrow, deeper than the marrow. And Philip, even though Jesus is speaking to Thomas, I love this vibe. Jesus is speaking to Thomas and says, okay, you know this. And Philip's like, what? So I love Philip too, because Philip is one of the great saints of, you are making no sense right now, but yet I love you. Which is often how I feel about God and how I feel particularly about Jesus and about many of the saints who've gone before us. And so that feels permissive to me. This is permission-giving time in these conversations and in our Alleluia Easter season to simply sit with these things and say, I have no idea where I am going a lot of the time, but God, I know that you are with me, even though I have great difficulty really, and this is serious, you know, I'm a priest, this is a big deal. I have great difficulty really believing that that is the case. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands because that seems like a slightly wild thing to do, even in America. In Britain, if I ask for a show of hands, people would be like, I am getting up and walking out of church right now. I could do it in any accent and they'd be like, show of hands, but I'm not going to ask that of you at all. But what I want you to do is just reflect for a moment whether or not that resonates with you, and it might not, and that's okay, but if it does, I find this hard to believe. I find it hard to believe that God is present, and it's one of the reasons why I asked the question, so I'm responsible for that question at the beginning, what do you wonder about? So if you found that question challenging, that is my fault, not Zach's. And in our little group, there were some profound things said and shared that I take to my prayers for all of you. And one of the reasons is because I wonder a lot about the relationship between trust and faith and God's presence alive and active in our world, especially now. Especially now, at this moment. Not only in this nation, but in so many places around the world. And as a visitor from London and as a Canadian, I am holding you all in my hearts as you are in your hearts, walking through and experiencing and moving through the world, however we can, in the midst of God's glory and presence, even when it feels like the sky is falling, the fragments are everywhere, and there is something just beyond our reach. I was also inspired by this work of art by an artist called Corita Kent. It's from the 1960s. Corita Kent worked in Los Angeles, and she was a nun. She was known as the pop art nun by some. And some said that she did for the Eucharist what Andy Warhol did for Campbell's soup. So she was really interested in screen printing. She worked with big, bold colors, bits of poetry, newspaper, journalist, photographs, little snippets, the Bible, and commercial slogans. Things she saw on billboards and supermarkets became a really important part of her work. So when she talks about enriched bread and wonder that helps build strong bodies 12 ways and a large loaf, I've just told you that she's a nun who makes art and that this is a sort of an art thing and that this was in the 60s. However, enriched bread, wonder, helps build strong bodies 12 ways. Even the colors, what has she been looking at? What has she been looking at? Just say it if you know it. Wonder bread. Now, when I talk about this in the UK, I have to explain what Wonder Bread is, but I don't have to explain that to you. So I'm so glad to be with you in New York City because you know what Wonder Bread is. And some of you may know that some of the colors and some of the sort of like fun, cute, almost clowny, joyful moms helping their kids kind of vibe in the mid-20th century that came out of this, and that it was enriched. It had a vitamin mineral thing going on, so also very chemical, kind of industrially produced, but with that sort of PR of health and well-being behind it, however you see that, that's the concept. It's sort of like saying that, I don't know, it's the bread equivalent of Twinkies, which I also don't have to explain to you, which is great. I'm having a lovely time. So the thing about this is that the guy who invented this, he saw hot air balloons going up in the sky, and he thought that this was beautiful, and they had all these rich primary colors, and he was like, this is great. What if shopping for bread in the supermarket and eating it felt a little bit like taking a little trip, experiencing wonder? And so that's part of the reason why that looks the way it does. So Corita Kent, of course, takes wonder back and says, no, Wonder bread, yeah, lovely, but that's not the wonder that I am talking about. That's not the enriched bread of a chemical process with added vitamins and minerals that I'm talking about. Helps build strong bodies 12 ways. Well, in this point, maybe we're talking about the apostles, the disciples, Philip and James. So from that point of view, what is a standard large loaf? Is the Eucharist standard? Here we're using bread, and so in a way, we're using something that abides with us all the time. We're really used to bread around us. You can't buy communion wafers at a deli. Maybe you should. That's quite fun. I remember going to a monastery once where they make communion wafers. Lots of monks do this. Cheese, beer, communion wafers, that kind of thing. It's called Oka in Canada. And so in the shop, they sold something called blanc d'hostie. So what happens is you get this sheet, and then you press the communion wafers out of the sheet, and that means that you have the leftover little bits. It looks like Connect 4. Do you know what I mean by that? And so they broke them up, and they would sell them in the shop as crackers for cheese. We bought a large bag of them because we thought it was funny. But if you've had a lot of communion in your life, as many of you have, as I have certainly with those little wafers, they taste of nothing. So it was pure novelty, but I thought it was kind of cool. Nothing is wasted, right? So that the bread for us is both standard, it's every day. It could be any bread, anywhere. And it becomes the exact opposite of standard. It becomes love in our mouths. For Christians, the taste of God is the taste of bread. The taste of God is the taste of wine. For Christians, the risen Christ is present. And we may experience the idea of presence theologically and personally is present for us in these simple things. There is such a thing as everyday simplicity, and that's a good thing. Pope Francis knew that. There's such a thing as everyday simplicity in which God dwells always, and to give thanks for that is precious. Also, nothing is standard with God. You and your hearts and minds exactly as you are. We share so much in common as human beings. We often forget that. We forget that far too often, far too much. But really, if you think about it, if those hosts pressed out on the tray, none of us is that. Not really. Not in the way that it's made. All of us have these beautiful little rough edges, these extraordinary moments of misunderstanding, of doubt, of hope. It feels to me in this gospel like the sky has fallen in fragments. They're crushing it under their feet, and they're looking around and they're saying, there's something just beyond our reach. And so there's something kind of heartbreaking. And it's read in different tones every time, which I love. I love it when readers bring these passages alive, where Jesus says, have I been with you all this time? I am right here. It's one of the reasons why I love the Eucharist so much and its presence. Our wonder, the taste of God in our mouths. I am right here. That's what Jesus offers us in this beautiful sacrament. The simple togetherness that we are experiencing right now is a manifestation of Jesus saying to you and me, just as he says to Philip, James, Thomas, all the people around him, and all who do their best, stumbling, confused, and doubting, certainly like me, to follow him today. He's present. How? Well, we both know, and we see, and we hear, and we read, and we don't know. One of the things that is said by Philip in another moment in the Gospels, there's some curious folks, and they gather around and they say, we wish to see Jesus. And he says, yeah, okay. I'm going to have to ask my friend about that. I'll figure that out. So he goes to get Andrew. And there's this beautiful moment where together they are motivated and inspired by this line that I think about and that I use all the time, internally and in the Gospels. Come and see. Come and see. Come and sing. Come and wonder. Come and look and read. Just be together. Come and eat. Because that is the taste of love, and that is the most wonderful thing. Amen.